and start everything this morning. So thank you all for being here this morning. Happy Wednesday, happy mid-May. I know all the days are kind of blending together these days, but just so you all know, it is Wednesday and it is the 13th of May. So welcome this morning. Glad to have you here. My name is Ken Schmitt. I'm the CEO and founder of both TurningPoint Executive Search as well as the Sales and Marketing Leadership Alliance. It's great to see a lot of faces that are guests or folks that haven't been to our meetings in the past as well. So welcome to the event this morning. As you will see, there's a pretty wide variety of folks that are on, and the goal of this group, the SMLA, is to really bring a more diversified group together from sales backgrounds, marketing backgrounds, frontline leadership, business leadership, and business ownership as well. And for those of you that have been to our in-person events, you know that it's a very engaging, very exciting, and very kind of accomplished, if you will, very successful group of people. So we're glad that you're here this morning also. In terms of kind of the protocol and kind of what's happening this morning, you'll be seeing we use the chat box quite a bit. So if you have any questions or comments that you want to pose to the group this morning, please go ahead and put them in the chat box as well. Elaine Rosen, who is our Marketing and Operations Director, will be moderating also and helping to sift through those questions as we move through this morning. If you have any questions that you want to ask specifically of myself or of Dana, our speaker, you can also do that. And feel free to pose those questions as well. So that's a big part of it also. Our group, the SMLA itself, we are very, very focused on engaging and networking individuals, as you might know. And so one of the things that we do this in person for our live events, and we've also moved it online here as well. And it's gone over very, very well. We do something called success quads. So during the course of today's event and then afterwards as well, you can either go ahead and email Elaine during the event. She'll put her email address into the chat box, or you can go ahead and email her afterwards. And then you'll get an email by tomorrow morning that'll designate you and 3 other people in a group together. The goal of that group is to go ahead and set up a time for another Zoom call and have a conversation, do a deeper dive, really learn a little bit more about each other, about your backgrounds, and specifically how you can support one another. I had my quad yesterday from last month's meeting. It was fantastic. Several different leads were shared. 2 out of the 4 of us had just gotten new jobs, and we're looking for ideas and suggestions on how to target new prospects. So we were able to make some good introductions just as a result of that simple quad yesterday morning. So I highly recommend that you guys do that as well. So please go ahead and email Elaine during the event this morning or afterwards. That'd be fantastic as well. We have a really exciting conversation happening this morning. Dana and I actually know each other from another board that we sit on, which is the AAISP, the Association of Inside Sales Professionals. And she's got a fantastic background, as you may have seen on her LinkedIn profile. So we're going to jump into our conversation here very, very quickly as well. Again, if you have questions for us during the course of the conversation, please just go ahead and lock in. That'd be great. And log that in the chat box for sure also. And then finally, I want to mention as well that we are going to be continuing our virtual events like this through June as well. We'll see what happens in July. It's kind of unforeseen for sure when we'll be able to go back to live events also, but just know that we will have virtual events also starting or continuing on in the June timeframe also. So we look forward to seeing everybody there for sure. Okay, well with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dana to introduce herself and her business and kind of what she does out at Mitchell 1. So Dana, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Dana. I work for Mitchell 1 Snap-on in our software division. So essentially we support the automotive aftermarket, how to fix cars, how long it takes, and how to bill your customers. Software is a subscription, but we are connected to manufacturing and tools as well. I just typically myself work more on the software side. My job is mainly process improvement is kind of what our focus is for me specifically in relating to sales. Our company's huge on like Six Sigma Lean type best practice sharing. Any way you can save money or do something better. And we typically historically have not had a huge focus on the sales side for that. So that's what my job is basically. On a day-to-day, when I'm working with marketing, I'm really focused on the campaigns we run and then making sure that we can kind of connect our sales and our marketing team. That's kind of the bridge. for that. And that's pretty much it for like a quick little overview.
Very good. And you guys are down in where's the office again? Remind me.
So we actually just moved, which might be why we were in Poway and now we're in like the Del Sur area. We just built a new building.
Very good, very good. And I assume everybody is working from home right now, as the rest of us are?
Mainly we are an essential business because we support obviously heavy duty truck and automotive. So some people are in the office, but it's very minimal. I'm actually in the office right now, but my entire team is at home. So all of the majority of our employees are at home. It's very much a skeleton crew here.
Gotcha. And how much of your team was working from home or remotely outside of San Diego, pre-pandemic?
So we have a few different sales teams. For our inside team, we were all in-house here in the building. We do have field salespeople that are scattered across North America, two different groups. One group is employees, one group is independent contractors. So those groups have stayed out in the field, which has presented its own set of challenges because they don't typically do phone sales. So, you have to teach phone skills, sales to field salespeople.
Exactly. Especially these days, right? It's even that much more important.
Oh, no, absolutely. We've always been trying to encourage them. So it's been kind of a blessing in disguise, right? Like you can see some positives in it.
Right.
It's allowed us all to develop a little further.
So you mentioned that you also have independent contractors. Were those more specialized people, or is that actually an actual kind of rep firm, more formal, full-blown firm?
They're still reps, but they're all completely independent, 1099 contractors, and the majority of them have been with us for quite a while. It's very much a career company.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And has that model changed at all with the pandemic, or in terms of your focus on customers, or is that the same?
It's still the same model. We still have the same model. We've definitely been hit a little harder in the field than we have, but it's picking back up. Mm-hmm. Again, we are an essential industry, so typically when the economy is not doing well, we do well. Mm-hmm. If people aren't buying new cars, they're fixing their old ones more, which means that automotive shops do still need materials to do that.
And so do you work, the business as a whole, do you work across all lines of automobiles? Is it more certain types versus others? What types of service and body shops do you work with?
So I work mainly on the repair side, less so with body shops, but we do have a collision division. It's a different product line though. And we're new to that. We just launched it within the last year. But on the repair side, we do everything but exotics. So we don't do like Lamborghinis and Ferraris, that kind of thing. But besides that, we cover all OEMs, and then we do heavy duty. So we do tractor trailers, like medium duty trucks, some school buses, anything kind of has wheels and an engine. We're in.
Interesting. Has it? I'm curious about with the kind of uptick in terms of the number of electric vehicles out there. Is that something that you're involved in as well?
Well, we don't do repair on Teslas yet. If it's mainly it's specific to that when people ask, but sure. They're not. The majority of them aren't out of warranty. Mm-hmm. But as the industry, we've been around for 100 years. As the industry changes, so will we. We started out just being books, and now we're a completely online company. So we tend to we shift as the times change. Interesting. And we'll do that as well with electrics.
Well, we don't talk to many businesses these days that started off as just kind of a paper, printed catalog, right? We were to successfully migrate to digital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did books, then we moved over to DVDs, then we were DVD subscriptions, then online, and we've had a couple iterations of the online program.
Interesting. Very good. Very good. So talk.
People need cars.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They might get their information from a different format or a different platform, but cars have to be repaired no matter what. Even with fewer cars on the road, there still needs to be some repairs out there.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit, if you would, Dana, about your background. I know we were talking about this kind of at our call a couple of days ago, and it's just it's a fascinating story, and it's non-traditional, if you will, but it's obviously been very successful as well.
Yeah. So initially, so do you want me just to talk about Snap-on?
I'm sure that'd be great. Yeah, and even the fact
Okay.
that you didn't come from a sales, a corporate B2B sales background, right? You came from kind of retail.
No, I did. So I had a couple jobs when I graduated high school early, so I started working full time when I was 16. And I worked I did work a phone sales job that was just it was B2C and B2B, but mainly B2C. I then was a nanny for a couple years, and then an assistant manager at a Starbucks. And then I ended up shifting. I got a job here at Mitchell, at just very entry level. I did, it was basically a mix between customer service, technical support, and product support. From that, I shifted over to doing kind of administrative work in our client services group for like customer service, but mainly like written communication. From that, I was really interested in retention. I like difficult customers. I find it really satisfying to win them over. So I shifted to our retention group, which was it was very underdeveloped at the time. I was the lead of that group and ended up developing it a little bit more. We combined with our customer service team, and my supervisor and I kind of made more of a blended team that was both support and retention. I really liked the sales skills needed in that. I've always found sales to be kind of exciting and very satisfying and a very transferable skill set. When I was working in that group, because as I had mentioned, our company really focuses on process improvement. We call it RCI here, which is rapid continuous improvement. I did a lot of that, and so our inside sales team was growing, and I had a pretty close relationship with the manager down there. So I moved down there in an operational role, and I've been in this role now, I think, for 4 or 5 years, and I've really liked it. It's been really satisfying. No day is the same, and I get to do new stuff all the time. I have a ton of freedom, and it's just a great team. And sales is exciting. Like it just is. It's always I think it's always the most fun department,
Sure.
and has kind of the best personalities.
Exactly right. Like you said, no 2 days and no 2 customers are the same. So there's always something new, unpredictable, which is what I love about sales also.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
That's great. Very good. And as a quick reminder for everybody also, if you have questions, we encourage you to, ask questions. We want this to be a very engaging dialogue with Dana. So please feel free to ask any questions or suggestions that you might have as well. So the first question from Joseph actually is, and this is obviously the big focus of our discussion today, is, with the pandemic happening and everybody in a completely different work environment, both physically as well as mentally, how are you training, how are you mentoring, if you will, your team to be able to get people on the phone, get customers on the phone or prospects on the phone, and then being able to keep them on the phone and have a conversation about your services when people have so many other priorities that they're trying to juggle?
Yeah, we had some issues with that when we kind of first started calling, and we're working remotely and kind of working through this. For us, it was honestly very simple. I just told my reps that they needed to stop talking. It's a time of uncertainty. People are stressed out. Let them vent and then talk to them. So we're not, we should be doing this obviously before pandemic, but ask them what you can do for them and just stop talking. The biggest thing I've noticed is that the first part of our call is much longer now, because people are venting. They are talking about things they're worried about. They're saying they're uncertain. And it is a time of uncertainty. I think acknowledging that helps us a lot. Just telling my reps not to breeze over their concerns and listen to them, acknowledge them, and then try and solve a problem. So
that's great. And I'm curious.
That was kind of our biggest thing.
So pre-pandemic, were you a very kind of prescriptive type of a group where you had actual scripts that people would follow and kind of take them through that pipeline, if you will, that cadence of sales? And if so, has that script changed?
So we're not super scripted, just because every call is different and every customer's needs are different. We did used to be. Over the last year, we've completely changed our sales style and retrained all our reps and just tried to heighten our sales skills. With that, while we don't have scripts, we obviously have like resources they can use, and that's changed. I mean, we had to change all of our emails that go out to customers. Like all of our templates for our reps have been updated. Our marketing emails have been updated because everything does need to strike a different tone.
Sure.
And that was something that we did adjust, but mainly it was just getting people to be okay with the fact that prospects are uncertain right now, and it's not something that you can control. All you can do is work with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't control how people feel, and you also can't tell a business owner not to just, oh, don't worry about it during a pandemic. They're like, no, I'm worried.
Exactly.
And it's like, that's okay,
Yeah,
but
sure.
talk to them about how you can help.
Interesting.
So we've definitely shifted.
Now, have you found, so I know, like, for example, my youngest son, who's 18, I helped him bring his car into the Honda shop here in Carlsbad just about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And while they were still there, they were, the hours were certainly reduced, obviously, and you had to stay outside. You couldn't go into the trailer they were using, and they all had masks on, of course. Have your customers changed the way that they're applying and kind of utilizing your software, kind of your information?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that we were really big at Snap-on is we want an automotive shop to have all of our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways we do that is we try to help our customers. So when we're talking to people, it's not necessarily a sales call. We might just be giving them some tips. So automotive shops are offering like cleaning services for cars. They're offering to go to your house and pick up your vehicle and then drop it off, so it's contactless. Doing discounts on different maintenance work, following up on repairs that people may have not done initially because they didn't want to be without a vehicle, following up on all those people. So they've definitely shifted in that way, but they're still working because, again, like people do need vehicles. Like even if you're not driving to work every day, you still want to know you have your car so you can leave if you need to.
Exactly. Yeah,
so.
Sure. And I'm not sure if this is already part of the offering, but do the service providers or service mechanics, do they have your information on an app on their phone, or do they have to go to their desk computer to access the information? What's the actual kind of platform that they use for your services? Software?
So we did used to have an app, but now we do have one version of the product, but you can access it on your phone, a tablet, desktop computer, or your scan tool.
Oh, wow.
So you can access it a multitude of different ways. It's just basically preference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, great. I was kind of curious about what everybody's kind of preference was about how they actually access it and where they go to, especially if they're on the go all the time, more so now than before.
Totally. I always thought it would be people would use it more mobile, but they don't. Like when we look at our usage stats, it's majority desktop, but it is, if you think about it, if you're looking at like a wiring diagram, which is like a big messy graphic showing where all the wires go,
right.
You want it on a bigger screen.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's tough to hold your phone while you're up under the hood as well, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, very good. So back to the discussion a few minutes ago about adjusting the scripts, if you will, or kind of what the lead-in time, the actual call itself that your sales reps are making. Did you get any pushback from the reps saying, well, I want to be empathetic and I want to talk to them about their personal situation, but I also know I have this quota I have to fill, right? I have to do this to make sales ultimately. How much pushback, if any, did you get, and how did you respond to that?
We got a little bit of pushback, and mainly, but it wasn't anything new. We always get that kind of pushback, and my responses stayed consistent. Our sales developers' responses have stayed consistent. I understand that. I'm trying to help you. Like, that's why I'm talking to you. I want you to make sales. I want to help you be successful. That's why I'm telling you to approach it in this way. And then just work through it. We do a lot of role play. And in the same ways that I tell my reps to stop talking and listen to your prospect, I need to stop talking and listen to my reps. Because sometimes they're just venting, and that's okay.
Right. Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that we're starting to hear about from other sales leaders as well out there is trying to figure out how will they adjust, and if they will adjust their quotas for people. You know, a lot of folks are going to lose a full quarter or even more of selling time, if you will, that always weighs on every salesperson's mind. They always have kind of their threshold top of mind about where they are, where they're tracking, how the year is going, that kind of thing. So I'm sure that takes
Absolutely.
a few more conversations than before.
Yeah, definitely. We've actually been doing really well. Because we are working remotely, we've been really focusing our marketing efforts on increasing the number of leads in and treating each lead like a sale opportunity. We've been doing okay performance-wise. It's really just been tightening up kind of the soft skills for us.
Sure. And I think when you and I were talking a couple of days ago, you talked about how, the quality of a sales call has always been a metric, but now the quantity is less important, so to speak. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So we've always cared about the quality of it, but we did used to talk more about how many calls are you making? Is your activity levels high? That kind of thing. We aren't doing outbound cold calling right now, simply because business owners are stressed, and we don't want to call them if they don't want us to call them right now. So all of our kind of general automotive aftermarket lists are getting a rest, and we're only reaching out to people who have said that they want us to call. That said, we've had to kind of change to really focusing on how long are the conversations you're having. Are you getting to the point of doing a product demonstration? Are you listening to your customers? When I'm doing call coaching now, when I'm listening to calls and we're having our sales developers do call coaching, it's very focused on how does that customer sound? Are they interested? Are they combative? Are they how are they reacting, and how are you reacting to that? Which we didn't focus on as much before. We did look at, it's easy to look at activity, right? Just straight activity. It's very easy to say you made this amount of calls and this amount of demos, and it's all very, just numbers. But it's harder to look at the quality of it, but we've definitely had to shift in that way.
Very good.
And so, I like it. I think it's been good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that's really, honestly, that's the goal of any sales rep, is to have a quality call. Some companies do get a little bit lost in the metrics of just numbers, right? But you look at, the tried and true, case study of Zappos, right, which is now owned by Amazon. But they were all about, I don't care how many calls you make. It's not about time on the phone. It's about quality, and like you said, the tone and the responses that they get from their customers as well. Your goal is to make them happy, right? In any way you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, another thing is, because business owners are stressed, everyone's being very careful not to damage relationships or damage their reputation. No one wants to be the company that was calling during a pandemic.
Right.
No one wants to be that company. It's not a good look, and it won't be good as we do kind of start to progress through this. So
I'm curious. So in terms of reacting to or using those calls for training, do you record the calls with customers, and then in a weekly stand-up meeting, you kind of talk through that, and here's how this customer sounded, and ask the team what they thought? How do you actually use that? Or how do you leverage that?
So we do a ton of different stuff. Our reps listen to their own calls, and then sometimes will ask us to listen to it to just get our opinion. We listen to calls with them. We'll listen, and then we'll talk about it. We'll listen to calls as a group, and then talk about what we liked, what we didn't. We typically do kind of the standard 3 positives and a negative if we're doing call coaching, because everyone does a lot of stuff really well, and no one wants a list of things to do better. It's too overwhelming. And we do a lot of different stuff with the call with the call coaching, we do a ton of role play. So we'll listen to a call and then we'll do a role play to see how we could have done it better. But it's usually rep driven. The majority of the time, the rep saying like, "Hey, I did this call. I think I could have done it better. Can I listen to it, and can you listen to it, and can we talk about it?" So it's usually rep driven.
Very good, very good. And I'm curious, what about, we had a question actually from Joanna, I think, about, the kind of the connect ratio, right? So pre-COVID and then today, are you finding it harder? Are your sales reps finding it harder to actually connect with somebody live?
So since we did shift from doing outbound cold calling to only calling like a warmer lead, no, we've actually seen our contact rate go up. Because we're not cold calling anymore.
Right,
we're calling people who want us to call them.
Right. Makes sense.
So for us, it's gone up.
Okay. And do you use an automatic dialer system, or how do the calls actually made? What kind of platform?
We did kind of a mix, like pretty automatic, semi-automatic dialer. It would present the calls, but you did have to accept it. Like it didn't just kind of shove it to you. But we are not doing that anymore. It's all manual dial. Gotcha.
Okay, great. Very good. So you mentioned a few minutes ago also about, no one wants to be known as the company that was trying to sell during this, right? And what I call being tone deaf. A few months ago, we actually had a PR executive on this conversation on our virtual webinar. And she was talking about, how important it is to make sure that you're sounding empathetic, that you understand what's happening in the world, that you're not just completely tone deaf and just sell mode, right? So I'm curious about, I guess two things. A, has the sales team worked with the marketing team to redevelop or redefine the right kind of messaging? And then how has that messaging changed?
So our marketing team definitely does, like they do all the copy and all that kind of stuff, but they absolutely work. We work really closely with our marketing team. So we do a weekly meeting with our inside sales leadership and our marketing leadership, as well as our actual marketing associates that do the copy and do all of our ads. So they've been getting a ton of feedback from us in order to develop that messaging. And then in addition to that, we have, our reps communicate with our marketing department to say, this is what we're hearing on the phone. This is how people are reacting. We do a lot. We do get like a decent amount of like DMs and Facebook message leads, and that's directly from our marketing manager, which it goes to our inside sales people, so they get kind of like a play-by-play on what happens on those calls. So we're definitely kind of in constant communication, so they get to use all that information in order to make decisions. I know, like on my side, on the recruiting side, there's a lot more communication happening both with candidates but also with clients via text. Right, and you can't really have a very effective, empathetic text conversation. It's kind of tough to do. But that being said, based on just people's timing and availability, it's more efficient sometimes. Do your reps use texting at all when it comes to communicating with customers? Not at all. We actually tried texting a little bit, but our customer base, they weren't really open to it. Okay, interesting. Okay, so it kind of depends upon the audience and kind of what they see and what they want. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's we're very much still a phone call. I mean, we still have people calling us trying to purchase books. So it's kind of an interesting market. Yeah. The odds of that person being able to use text is probably pretty slim. They're asking I think it's kind of everyone can use text now, but like if it's like my father and I used to time each other doing a text, and mine was super fast because I've been doing it since I was in 7th grade. Right, sure. His would take a while. Like he could do it, but it was inconvenient. Right. Yeah. Sure. Exactly. It's a matter of ease. Yeah. I'm curious about are there any are you having internal conversations about whether some of your customers will end up not being able to stay in business, right? I mean, automotive, service repairs is certainly, has taken a hit to a certain extent. But you also said at the same time that you're doing pretty well as a business. So I'm curious about if that's a concern or a conversation internally. Well, it's always going to be a concern, or like you have to consider it, like what happens if. but we're a sales team and we're focusing on bringing in new business.
Mm-hmm.
As a company, we want to retain any customer we can,
Sure.
which means focusing on the people who we need to focus on. If our customers need support, we're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue trying to bring in new customers. And nothing's really changed in terms of our goals.
Okay.
We've always been very retention focused and we've always been very sales focused.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to continue doing both of those.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've been around for 100 years, so
Right. Yeah. Sure.
we feel pretty good about it.
Exactly. You were literally around the last time we had a pandemic, so.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
great. What about another question from Joseph came up talking about kind of follow-up techniques. Have you changed them at all? Are you writing, for example, handwritten notes? Is the cadence of follow-up different than what it was pre-pandemic?
So we do. Within our sales team, we do have new account specialists who they onboard customers. Those have definitely changed because those two agents actually report to me because I do have a retention background, but I've increased the number of touch points for new customers, and we've expanded on kind of what they cover because those calls are longer, and we do need to work harder to really make sure they see the value in our product. Because just because you signed them up doesn't mean they're going to stick with you. So we want to retain anyone we can. So we've definitely increased our touch points. Thankfully, we have the best new account specialists on the planet. So they've always been wildly empathetic and took zero training to kind of shift. But, the calls are longer. People are a little more nervous. You do have to try a little bit harder to kind of make them comfortable with their decision to go with our product.
Sure. And are you, from a business standpoint, are you typically displacing a competitor? They might be using a service shop, for example, might be using a competitor's software information, and they're going to you? Or is it they just have their own, it's very old and antiquated on Excel spreadsheet, and now you're trying to upgrade them?
It can be either, but
Okay.
Most repair shops do have some kind of repair information. We don't sell against the competition. We sell in the value of our own product because it doesn't, in this industry, there's kind of three main repair systems. There's us, All Data, and Identifix. A shop can have all three.
Oh, wow.
There's benefits and shortfalls to all. So we tend to not sell against the competition. We just sell based on value of our product.
Great. Okay, very good. So switching gears a little bit, so you talked before about your background being kind of somewhat non-traditional, and you also talked about having some really great, customer onboarding account reps as well. So I'm curious about what you look for in, as you're hiring folks onto your team, and your background, having not come from a traditional corporate, B2B sales background, how does that affect, who you look to hire?
We do a sales role play in the interview, and that's the biggest thing for us. You could have done anything at any point, but if you have sales skills, I think it's pretty easy to see. Are you trying to figure out what I need? Are you listening to me? Are you connecting it back? Do I see value in your product? We don't have any set guidelines or required experience when we're hiring. We just want people who like to sell, who want to sell, and who just kind of have that sales desire that's kind of hard. You can't see that on a resume. We have people from all over the place. We have a wide range of ages and different backgrounds, and it's made for a really good team. As far as process improvement goes, because you have so many different sets of eyes with so many different value sets that it's constantly changing, and you're constantly getting people saying, hey, what about this? In a really interesting way that we might not have thought of before. So we're big on a diverse team.
I think you mentioned when we were talking earlier that the ages go from 20 to 80 something, right? So you've got a really, that's amazing. That's great. Talk about a microcosm of, the country in terms of different generations working side by side.
Absolutely. And it definitely helps. It really helps. You have so many different viewpoints. We just get, that's why it's different every day, right? Like everyone sees something differently, and it's been really helpful kind of as we grow.
Yeah, great, very good. Now, what about in terms of your role as a leader, as a manager, right? So when people are in the office, you can stop in, you can say hello, check in, how they doing, how's their day going, go for a walk if they're having a really horrible day, right? How have you changed your leadership management approach and style now that everybody is remote?
Listening more. I think, I mean, my biggest feedback that I've gotten from people who report to me is that I can be overly intense.
Okay.
Which is fair. I speak loudly, I speak fast, I use my hands a lot, and I am operations and not sales, so I'm not always as charming as the rest of our team. It's their job to be charming, but I've had to slow down a lot. I understand it can come across a little differently, so I've just been trying to be in the same way that we're asking our reps to be empathetic and compassionate with our customers. I've been trying to do that with our reps, as is our leadership team. They're also going through a time of uncertainty. They are also nervous, and I think just kind of acknowledging that and letting them, again, shutting up and letting them talk is really important.
Yeah. Yes, I was on a webinar actually that was hosted by Inc. magazine actually late last week, and Jason Fried, who is the founder of Basecamp, and he's also a contributor for Inc. magazine, was talking a lot about remote working, and he's got a lot of software developers for his business and he's been remote forever. He actually wrote a book called Remote, which is a great book, also a good read. But he was talking about how it's a very different kind of dynamic to make sure that your employees are staying on task, but also staying engaged. Right, because if they aren't side by side or look to the left or look to the right and see their coworkers next to them, it's hard to remember what you're part of, the kind of the greater good, that greater ship that you're trying to steer when you're in Chicago or Florida or wherever. Yeah,
we've always used like an instant messaging chat room for our team. We continue to use that. It's kind of it's for our reps mostly to share best practices and kind of communicate back and forth, check in with each other. One of the biggest flags for me if I need to check in with someone is if they haven't said anything in that chat. Like it just kind of, it triggers a call for me, like, hey, how's it going? And like
they're conspicuously quiet. Yes, right.
Exactly. Yeah. So everyone's kind of, they're communicating in different ways, but we are communicating just as much as we did before. We'll do team meetings on Zoom. Usually we tend to keep them really positive, like just kind of like, hey, good job so-and-so today. We're doing this spiff, so I'll send you, some Visa gift cards to your house, or like talk about a cool win that someone had, different opportunities. So we're still communicating a lot. It's just it is definitely different.
Sure.
And people do have to opt in a little more than they did before. Like it's not, you can't be complacent and just be part of the team. You kind of have to be making active efforts to be part of the team. But we've been having pretty good luck so far.
That's right. Are you
everyone
doing
at this?
Sorry,
What?
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was going to say, are you doing stand-up calls that are on Zoom now, so you can kind of check in people's mental health, if you will, and just see how they're, like you said, are they making eye contact? Are they saying anything at all? Is that a way that you're using that to kind of gauge their their well-being?
Yeah, you can tell a lot by kind of how people are reacting and the stuff they're saying. We've had a few people, like at a few points where you're just kind of like, you're not, like, you're a little off. You seem like you're using like a lot of negative language or kind of negative self-talk. And then we follow up with them. I mean, in the same way that people can have a bad day in the office, they can have a bad day at their home office.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
And just call them, talk to them. We just try to make sure we do talk. A member of the management team does talk to every rep at least once a day on the phone. And then they're usually obviously in more contact with text and some messaging, email. But they do have one verbal conversation a day because it's a little easier to kind of gauge where people are at.
Sure. Great. Okay. Very good. And I know you mentioned earlier that the business is actually doing pretty well, that you're A, an essential business, and B, you tend to be somewhat counter-cyclical to how the economy is going, which is great. A couple of folks actually have asked, have you or are you planning on adjusting quotas for the year, or are you tracking in a way where that you won't really have to from what you're seeing so far?
As of now, no,
Okay.
because nothing's certain right now. It's an uncertain time.
Sure.
But the way we do our targets is it's basically a per diem target based on working days.
Okay.
So if you have 20 working days in a month, it's that per diem target times 20, and then that's your quota.
Gotcha.
We have been doing well since working remotely. We do have less people working than we did before, but all of our full-time employees are working at this point. So it's been all right, but we've always been really fair with quotas.
Sure.
It's based on the amount of time you have to work, and it's kind of worked out for us.
That's great. Well, I know as a recruiter in San Diego, we always know the companies that are doing very, very well or that are not, depending upon if we ever see resumes coming out of certain organizations, right? And there are those companies that are known as being very much of a grind, a tough place to work. People don't last very long. But I have heard nothing but good things about working out at Mitchell One. I mean, it's amazing about the longevity, and I know it's not easy. It's not an easy job by any stretch, but kudos to you and the leadership team for keeping people as engaged and as retained as they are. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a really good company. There's room for growth. We're really big on letting people kind of explore what they want to do. There's a ton of different things to do if you don't want to stay in sales. Right. There's also a lot of money to be made if you want to stay in sales and work 40 hours a week. It's a pretty solid company.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's
We're
fantastic. Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit to talking about kind of, I hate using the word post-pandemic because this is going to be with us for quite a while, right? But let's say post-lockdown. Do you have a sense for when you'll be bringing people back into the office?
No, we're following guidelines from state, federal, local, government officials, as well as the CDC. So we're following it. Obviously, as we prep for it, we're making sure that everyone's going to be able to be socially distanced. We're raising the cubicle walls. We're just making sure all that kind of stuff is in place for when we can. We are a company that we don't work remotely. We work in office, and we do want to get back to that, but when it's safe. So we don't have a set date, and we are continuing to kind of do all the steps so we're ready.
Sure, kind of adjust, yeah. So it sounds like you're not, there's so many surveys happening out there right now, and some surveys show that a good portion of employers are going to allow their employees to remain working from home if they want to, and other employers say, no, once we can go back to our traditional office setting, we're going to go back to that. It sounds like the game plan is to go back to a traditional office setting as much as possible when the time is right.
Yeah, that's the game plan at this point. But again, everything, no one's really married to any specific idea. But yeah, as of now, we're absolutely going to come back to the office and get back to that working environment and whatever kind of, again, once it's safe and once we've finished making sure everyone can be properly spaced and everything's high enough and all that.
Yeah, sure. I hadn't thought about raising the kind of the height of cubicle walls. That's interesting. That's something hadn't even dawned on me. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because if you think about it, if people are pretty close to each other.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, just create a barrier.
The whole idea of having a face mask on as well, and having a headset, or I don't know what platform you use or what technology you use, but that's going to be tough too. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just yesterday was doing some test calls with some of our sales developers because I wanted to see if you could hear the face mask. You can. It's wildly muffled, so we have not figured that out yet.
Right.
But it definitely is muffled.
Interesting. Yeah. There's so many different phases of how we're going to go back to whatever this new next normal is going to be. But simple things like that, you think if you have to wear a face mask in the office, but you're on the phone all the time, those two things don't go together. It's
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of have to figure out different ways, which is hence raised cubicle walls, spacing people a couple desks apart, just doing what you can.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's going to invent a face mask that has a little, microphone chip embedded in the bottom of it. So it'll be one of those innovative things that'll come out in a couple months, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, great. So what are you and your peers, so other leaders in the organization, what are you all doing just to maintain your own kind of peace of mind, if you will, mental health, whatever you want to call it, given all this, how fluid everything is and how much uncertainty is out there?
Yeah. Me personally, I like periods of change.
Mm-hmm.
I find them like invigorating. So as awful as this has been and as like damaging as it's been to the economy and various other companies and like obviously individuals I know, professionally, I found it very satisfying. I like a problem that I don't know how to solve yet, and I like working with other people to figure out best ways to handle different things. So personally, I've been fine with it. Our management team, we've also heightened our communication. So our leadership team, we meet at least twice a day. We're pretty much in constant contact. We make a point to do like Zoom happy hours and have kind of more fun, like casual conversations. So it's not always super serious. And we've all kind of been taking this time to work on developing some of our professional skills and then talking to each other about it. Because in the same way that we have a very diverse sales team, we also have a very diverse leadership team. So we can all kind of help each other in different ways.
That's great. That's great. And with regard to cold calling and getting back to that point as well, do you have a sense for when you think you'll start to kind of reincorporate cold calls into your sales cadence?
We'll do it based on how the market's responding. So whenever we're starting a new campaign or attempting to do something different, our sales developers, who are essentially like sales supervisors, do test calls on it. So we do a little pilot to see how they react. And once our numbers are closer to what they were pre-pandemic, then we'll move forward with it.
Gotcha. Okay. So kind of see how things go. And this whole idea of kind of design learning and agile sales, right, is really coming on strong right now because everything is just so fluid.
Yeah. But it's exciting.
It is exactly right. Very true. Very true.
There's positives from it.
Yeah. If you could spend a couple minutes talking about the RCI, the rapid continuous improvement that you mentioned before, is that something that's kind of homegrown within Mitchell One, or where did that stem from, and how does that look?
So it's pretty. So we do. It's pretty Six Sigma lean based, but it is like our actual program is specific to Snap-on. It's all across our entire company, so it's global, and we really focus on it. So we have our like rapid continuous improvement trainings every quarter. Every employee does 1 or 2 individual RCIs, so just something you did to improve your own work and that you worked on alone. Every employee also does a group project where you work with a team to solve a problem. The biggest thing is you start with a problem, not a solution, and that you actually work through it. Again, typically in sales, we haven't been great at RCI because getting everyone to kind of sit down and do something that they can't immediately connect to a sale has been difficult. So we had to make that sale to them that this will actually be important. But it's a huge part of our company. Everyone's always focused on doing it because people do process improvement every day. They just don't necessarily share it. So what RCI does for us is it lets us talk about it and it lets us share best practices.
And are there different levels, like Six Sigma? I know you have different levels of belts, right? Green, black, whatever it is. Are there different levels of certification or of kind of success, if you will?
No, we don't do any RCI ranking.
Okay.
It's basically everyone gets the training, everyone participates. We do have RCI leaders. I'm ours for our group. So we have like a couple different leaders, but we don't do any kind of ranking. Like it's very like everyone's even playing field.
Great, very good.
Which is
Well,
cool because it
love
lets
hearing.
them.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the
Sorry,
internal, kind of corporate universities that different companies have as well, where they're doing a lot of learning and development for their teams.
Yeah. Yeah, it's allowed us to, we definitely focus on RCI a lot more since going remote. It's, for me, it's a good chance to kind of have a conversation with our reps, see what they're doing. And then obviously as people have shifted their work environment, they've changed a lot of processes, and then kind of they've had a lot of growth through it. Like, for example, I had one sales rep who I've been for the past 4 years. An eternal fight between the two of us has been that he does everything on paper, which drives me nuts because he's lost his notebook twice. And since moving remote, he doesn't have a printer anymore. So he came up with this like very elegant and simple solution to manage all the stuff that used to be paper. And that in and of itself was an RCI. It was born out of necessity, but he solved a problem he had been having for several years. So it was pretty good. I've been liking it.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Yeah. I mean, who would have known something like this kind of a situation, as tough as it is, would have forced that kind of solution to come to light.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously, again, there's a ton of negatives, but there's also been some positives.
Right.
It really has allowed people to kind of focus on their sales skills, and just, we can all take the time to kind of figure out what we want to get better at. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So switching back, and again, anybody has any other questions, please feel free to chime in as well. We have our list of questions here, but we'd love to hear from the audience too. Anybody have any other questions, just feel free to ask away. So back to you mentioned a while ago about the leads that are coming in. There's a strong value put on those, right? How are leads parsed out, and what's kind of that cadence that you take an inbound lead through?
So if we have, right now our inbound leads, like if they're coming from like any of our social media campaigns or partnership accounts, our outbound sales team is calling on those.
Okay.
Again, we don't have like we don't really have a script or anything that we definitely do. We follow a sales process, but it's really driven by the customer. Our rep decides what they're going to show them, what they should show them, but the customer knows what their needs are. They're the experts, obviously. And then our inbound sales team is mainly handling the inbound calls, so the people who are picking up the phone and calling us. And they do the same thing. They talk to the customer, figure out their needs, their pain points, and then match them with the right product.
Very good.
So it hasn't really shifted.
Is it typically a longer sales cycle from when a lead comes in and then you make that call to follow up? What is that sales cycle like?
It varies. So typically, once we do a product demonstration, we're selling it on that same call. Depending on the customer, it could be a one-call close. It isn't typically. It's typically about 3 calls, but those 3 calls could happen in a 2-day period, or it could happen over the course of 2 months. It really depends on the business. And it varies from automotive to truck, and it varies depending on how many bays they have or how many technicians. So it's pretty all over the place. I personally don't like averages for our business because the range is too great that they don't make sense.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, from 3 days to 2 months. It's hard to find an average or a mean or anything. That's a lot of variation.
Yeah, because it just doesn't mean anything at that point, and it's also not specific to like the kind of subtype of the business. Like it's not specific to that. It's very all over the place. So
yeah, sure. Interesting. Wow. So given what you just described as far as the sales cycles being as varied as they are and the different styles that different reps have as well, one of the things that you mentioned in our call earlier was that you're not working with any kind of a formal CRM system right now, right?
Yeah.
Which I found was just really kind of I did a kind of a double take on that. Can you kind of talk about how you manage without a CRM given the complexity of the business?
Yeah. So I spend half my life in Excel lists, first of all. But we do have a good phone system. So we use Cisco with Finesse, along with Upstream, which is like it sits on top for kind of note taking and doing different call dispositions. So I manage things through Excel, through a bunch of different tables, and then parse those out to the reps. And then I take that main list and I cross-reference it with our phone system data, to basically see what happened on those calls. And then once I have that, I, connect it to how much our marketing spend was, as well as mix it in with our sales supervisors' feedback based on call recordings and actual call monitoring. So we've kind of figured it out pretty well, but it's clunky because I'm doing it manually. So it works for us for reporting purposes. It's obviously not the best tool for our sales reps.
Mm-hmm. Sure, exactly.
They all have kind of like their own thing they do for managing it.
Yeah. And now, even if you did have a more traditional CRM, every sales rep still is going to have their own workaround and their own way of doing it. And someone's on the phone, someone's on paper. Obviously, everybody's got a different style.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely all over the map.
How much of your time are you spending just in that manual operation?
I've gotten pretty speedy at it, so probably about 90 minutes a day. But again, that's not just connecting spreadsheets. I'm also, listening to calls or trying to get a better feel for it. My main priority right now is campaigns, and making sure that the stuff we're doing is effective for our sales reps. So it kind of depends on what the priority is at the moment, but that is my priority right now. So I spend as much time as I need to, basically.
Very good, very good. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
And then with a question from Joanna also, just this is a little more specific to the business itself and the transaction, but is it a subscription model? Are you taking credit card payments over the phone for a year's worth of subscription? How does that work?
Yeah, it is. It is a subscription model, and then when we take credit card payments, the customer's typically typing it in. We're doing a VPN to a remote desktop access, so a combination, and so it is encrypted. And then they're not saying it out loud over the phone, but even if they were, they're using voice over IP. So that's okay too. Yeah, so we're still taking credit card payments.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's another issue go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
The one thing that has changed is we did have a lot of customers who wanted to fax us checks, and they can still do that while our reps are working remotely, but it's more of an obnoxious process because they have to send it to me because I have a secure fax, and they can't send it to themselves individually. So we've gotten away from that, which is nice. Because I hate the whole faxing checks thing. I think it's like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
And talk about security issues as well. I mean, there's so many other things, other steps you have to go through to make sure that those payments are secure and confidential.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that has been definitely another win, is I think I will be able to finally get rid of our fax machines when we get back here. I've been begging IT to break them for me. Yeah, seriously.
That's great. That's great. Well, so another question from Joanna about the marketing side. So how many different marketing campaigns to drive inbound leads are going on at any one time?
Right now we have 6 going right now, but it varies. Yeah.
And so,
we have different industries though. So.
Oh, true. That's a good point. So it's all different verticals or different maybe types of service shops as well.
Yeah, and we have a lot of partnership accounts, and so there's like a couple different. There's the ones that we always have, and then we parse some others in.
And do you get involved at all with, I don't know the business well enough to know the answer, but with affiliate marketing or referral marketing, or is that part of the strategy as well?
We do have some partnerships. We honestly mainly do the majority of our business comes from our own internal marketing efforts.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you have to track all those campaigns then on different spreadsheets, right?
Well, I keep them all separately, and then I put them in one big one so I can tie it all together.
Sure.
Plus, you have to look for duplication, right? Like,
sure, right.
If one leads in 5 campaigns, I didn't get 5 leads.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, just well, kudos to you for being able to keep all those manual activities straight. That's a lot.
It's thrilling.
That's pretty funny. All right, good. Well, we have a few minutes left here. I can only imagine what that's like. I mean, I'm a numbers guy, but I'm not a spreadsheet kind of a guy. So that would drive me a little batty, I think.
I was not either. It was born out of necessity and hours of YouTube.
Exactly right. A lot of ways to self-learn. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So question actually about anything new. It's an interesting question. Anything new in terms of internal competition among sales reps, or prizes or contests, that kind of thing during the downturn?
Yeah. So we've always done spiffs. We do like a variety. We'll do like Visa gift cards or gas cards. Like barbecue grills and electronics, just random stuff. We've continued doing that remotely. We're just mailing the prizes to their houses. Mm-hmm. It's been pretty successful. Obviously, right now, kind of the most popular thing is just the Visa gift cards, because people are nervous. They just want money.
Exactly.
But we've been doing that, and it's been going really well. We do longer spiff contests, but with larger prizes for kind of month-long performance. Mm-hmm. And then we also do like little, if demos are low one day, I'll put in the group chat like, hey, $100 the next person who does a demo, and we'll just get that going. So we've just kind of continued doing it, but virtually.
Yeah, very good. A question from Phil. You talked about this a little bit before, about kind of listening to the phone calls for kind of tone of the customer and kind of what they're how they're sounding. What else are you listening for on those calls in terms of quality and feedback to give to your reps?
The biggest, so I would say what I usually listen for first is, did the customer say they had any kind of problem that we can help them with? Because if they didn't say they had a problem, the call shouldn't really be progressing until they did. After that, I look at if they're connecting the product to the problem. We don't like product demos just to show all the bells and whistles of our product. If we have one feature that's going to answer the one problem that customer has, show them that. Spend a long time on it, but show them that. Don't waste their time on something that may not apply. And then making sure at the end of it, making sure that the customer actually is basically really saying yes. Like they're telling you that they want it and they're telling you why. Because we don't want an order just to have someone return it. So just really making sure that the product's a good fit for the customer and that our sales reps are listening to them.
Great, yeah. Which is true and important either during the pandemic, pre, post, whatever it is. Those are all the key metrics to listen for. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Very good. Okay. And then just a quick question about the software itself. Is the software also used for fleet management, or is it strictly on the repair side?
So it's not fleet management, but the fleet repair, yes. So if someone has like a fleet of trucks or tractor trailers or anything like that, they can use our product to find information to repair them. Okay, great. Or just like do regular maintenance work or see how long it takes, any of that.
Wonderful. Very good. Perfect. Yeah. All right. Good. Well, I think we're at our mark here. Any parting words or recommendations you might have for sales leaders out there, kind of during this pandemic, about things they can do to really kind of keep their teams engaged, or just suggestions that you've learned along the way over the last couple of months?
I mean, I know I already said this, but honestly, the biggest thing for me has just been taking my own advice that I give my reps and just stop talking and letting my reps talk. People will tell you what they're feeling if you let them, and just kind of not cutting people off necessarily when they're venting and allowing them to vent. I think a lot of times the instinct can be, oh, don't say that, everything's good, you're good to go, but that doesn't really work right now, because it just seems like you're discounting their feelings. And shout out to one of my employees for calling me on it when I did that to her pretty early on in this. I was trying to make her see positive, and she basically told me, she goes, I feel like you don't care what I'm saying because you're just trying to flip it around. And she was right. And it definitely slapped my hand and made me kind of shift how I was talking to our reps. So honoring how they feel, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good advice, and fantastic for having a team that's willing to push back, right? Some team members would just just shut up and clam up, and then you never know that what you did could have been, better or improved, if you will.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that I'm talking to a lot of our clients about, also on the recruiting side, is it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncertain and to be worried and stressed, right? We all, whenever you're out networking, you say, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. And it may or may not be true, but that's always the knee-jerk reaction response. But right now, it's things are okay over here, not so great over there. It was a great January, February. It was a horrible March. We don't know what to expect for May and June. I mean, it's okay to be honest about what's going on, because a lot of us are going through it right now.
Yeah,
definitely. I totally agree. And of course, I'm married to a therapist, so that's where it's coming from for me. But regardless, that's still part of the situation. All right, great. So a reminder for everybody, if you want to get involved in a success quad, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, please email Elaine. They're a great way to reconnect with folks also in a smaller setting and learn about how you can help each other out. They've been very, very successful and very accomplished as well. Dana, if you would like to be in one also, please let us know, and I'll be happy to include you also. That'd be great. Not everybody can't be in a success quad with Dana, so we'll have to figure out who's going to do that, but that would be fantastic. And Dana, is it okay if people reach out to you directly on LinkedIn also if they have questions for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. It was a great conversation this morning. I learned a lot. I took a lot of notes as you were talking too. So thanks for the suggestions or recommendations and kind of best practices out there. I love it.
Oh, of course. Yeah, thanks.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and stay healthy and stay safe out there. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.